Prairie City Council meeting for Monday, May 1st, 2017. I'd ask everyone in attendance to rise and join us in singing O Canada. Thank you to the National Film Board for the images of our country and to our very own Grand Prairie Boys Choir for the audio. We'll move into the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to adopt that set of minutes from April 17th, please? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I would move that Council approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held Monday, April 17th, 2017.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Are there any errors or omissions that we need to correct before we adopt that set of minutes? I don't see anybody ringing in, so I will call for the vote to adopt them. Please vote. Thank you. And that motion carries. I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Councillor Rice.
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on the agenda? I don't see anybody in the queue. I will call for the vote on the adoption of the agenda, please. That motion carries as well, and that'll take us to the delegation portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity that we have at every regular City Council meeting for anyone in the public to come forward and address Council on any community-related matter, as long as it wasn't the subject of a public hearing. I'm looking out into the audience to see if there's anybody that wanted to come forward and address Council this evening. I don't see anybody making their way forward. So I will just remind the public that this opportunity does exist at every regular City Council meeting. We're certainly happy to have anybody attend. And it is just one of the ways that you can let your City Council know what your priorities are out there in the city. So we'll close the delegation portion of our agenda and move on to public hearings, starting with item 6.1, the Vision West Business Park Outline Plan Amendment and Land Use Bylaw Amendment. I would call this public hearing to order and look to administration for introduction.
Thank you, Mayor Given. This is a rezoning amendment from public service to arterial commercial. Administration has received an application to rezone land within the Vision West Business Park from public service to arterial commercial. This rezoning requires an amendment to the Vision West Outline Plan. However, the Outline Plan was originally adopted by resolution, and it is being presented as in its entirety to be converted to a bylaw. The reason for this amendment is to change the designation and zoning of the parcel due to the fact that at the time of subdivision, the area of municipal reserve dedicated was smaller than what was shown in the Vision West Business Park Outline Plan. The subject parcel is a 0.5 hectare parcel that was intended to form part of a larger parcel that was not taken as municipal reserve. It was subdivided as a private lot with private ownership and serviced for commercial use. The subject property is 0.5 hectares in size, and it's located in the Vision West Business Park, north of the ATCO Electric Building. The Vision West Outline Park, or the The Vision West Business Park contains a combination of commercial, light industrial, and general industrial properties. The subject property is adjacent to a 2.4 hectare municipal reserve site that will remain zoned PS and designated as municipal reserve. As per the municipal development plan, there's a policy that states that we will be converting any outline plans that have been adopted by resolution by bylaw. So in this case, we're presenting the entire outline plan in order to convert it. And as per the Municipal Government Act, 10% of the developable land must be provided to the city either as land or cash in lieu. It is typical for cash in lieu to be provided instead of land in commercial and industrial areas, as parks and schools are normally located in residential areas. In the Vision West Business Park Outline Plan that was adopted in 2008, a combination of land and cash in lieu were designated as municipal reserve. The reason for this was due to the master plan, the Recreation Master Plan that was adopted in 2006, that identified a need for recreation areas and industrial parks. In 2010, the Municipal Development Plan adopted a policy that also stated that land and industrial parks should be taken, municipal reserve and industrial areas should be taken as land as well. Therefore, with the remaining 2.4 hectares of land dedicated as MR in this plan, the plan is still consistent with this policy. The property falls within the boundaries of the Vision West Outline Plan. The subject property is currently designated as municipal reserve in this plan. Reducing the size of the municipal reserve from 3 hectares to 2.4 hectares isn't expected to have any negative impacts on the city. The reduced area will still meet the city's recreational open space needs in this area of the city. And the city's engineering department and Aquaterra have confirmed that the site was serviced for commercial use and that the cash in lieu was paid for the remaining amount for this parcel. The proposed rezoning of the subject property to arterial commercial would be consistent with the pattern of development which exists in the area. The land to the north is zoned arterial commercial, to the east is business industrial, and to the south is general industrial, and to the west is the remaining public service lot. Administration recommends that Council give 3 readings to Bylaw C-1353 and Bylaw C-1260-71. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ms. Downing. Any questions for administration at this point? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Allison, did you say that we already received cash in lieu for this property without coming to council, before it came to council? Is that what I heard what you were saying?
Ms. Downing?
Through the mayor? Yes, this particular issue wasn't identified till long after the subdivision had been approved and the cash in lieu had been received by the engineering department. It was possibly a year later that the inconsistency between the outline plan and the subdivision that had occurred had come to light, and the property needed to be rezoned to be in line.
My final question, so what is on the property now?
Thank you, through the mayor. The property is serviced but vacant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see anybody else with questions for administration at this time. We'll have another opportunity, council, to come back. So I will open the presentation submission portion of the public hearing. I would ask if there's anyone here to speak in support of this outline plan amendment and land use bylaw plan amendment. Sorry, land use bylaw amendment. Gentlemen, here I thought you were here for the public delegation portion. Imagine my surprise when it's actually for this public hearing.
Scott Rossler with Helix Engineering. With me is Matt Bukta from KCM Construction, also the developer on the property. Mostly here to answer any questions that do arise. We've been a part of the process, the planning process for Vision West, basically since its inception. So the intent of the parcel in question in the MR area that's there has been kind of kept in touch with administration. We have had discussions with them. I don't know if this got mentioned in the report, but Parks has been contacted, and they are okay with this revision and whatnot as well. So I don't know if there's any questions that we can answer beyond what the administrative report was, but I'd be happy to if there are any.
Thanks, gentlemen. Council, any questions for the delegation? I don't see anybody in the queue with any questions. Gentlemen, thanks very much for making yourself available this evening. Much appreciated. Was there anyone else who wished to speak to this public hearing subject? Is there anyone who wished to speak to this application for the Vision West Business Park Outline Plan Amendment and associated land use bylaw amendment? I don't see anybody else coming forward. Council, one last opportunity if you have any questions for administration before I close the public hearing. Seeing none, then we'll move on to, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to business arising. Can I get a motion on the business arising? We'd need to start with first reading with respect to the outline plan. We'll do the outline plan first and then move on to the land use bylaw, associated land use bylaw amendment. Councillor Rice.
I move first reading of bylaw C1353 being a bylaw to adopt the Vision West Business Park Outline Plan.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. We won't have any discussion or debate on first reading. I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice.
I move second reading of bylaw C1353.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So that motion for second reading, of course, is open for discussion and debate. Any discussion or debate on this motion? Again, I don't see anybody in the queue. That being the case, I'll call for the vote on second reading. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice.
I move we have third reading for bylaw C1353.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. So this is a motion to have third and final reading of this outline plan amendment at tonight's council meeting. In order for us to have third and final reading, this motion must pass unanimously. We can have discussion and debate on the merits of having third and final reading here tonight. If there is any debate on that topic, I'd look for it now. Again, I don't see anybody fingers quivering on the ring in button, so I will call for the vote on the motion to have third reading tonight. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry, and so that will come back at our subsequent council meeting. Councillor Rice, can we move on to the land use bylaw amendment?
Okay, I move first reading of bylaw C126071, an amendment to the land use bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Appreciate you stepping in there and making that motion for us. Of course, no discussion or debate on first reading. Please vote. That motion carries. Councillor Rice.
I move second reading of bylaw C126071.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on second reading? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, can I get from administration just a little bit more what they're trying to do with the bylaw? Like a little bit more information.
Well, no, Councillor McLean.
Okay.
That's why we have that opportunity to ask administration questions at the start of the public hearing and before the close of the public hearing.
No.
Now is an opportunity to discuss and debate the motions that arise from the public hearing rather than
No problem.
information.
Thanks, Bill.
Any discussion or debate on Councillor Rice's motion for second reading? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Rice.
I move that we have third reading of bylaw.
Sorry, Councillor Rice, when we changed in the queue there, your microphone went off to have another council member in. There you are.
I move that we have third reading of bylaw C126071.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. As with the previous motion, as with the previous item, this is a motion to have third and final reading here at our council meeting. If this motion isn't successful unanimously, then it will come back at our subsequent council meeting. Any discussion or debate as to the merits of having third and final reading? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry, and so we'll get third reading of both of those two attached items at our next council meeting. I think that handles all of our public hearing business. We have no items of unfinished business left over from previous council meetings, and we have no reports items, and that would take us into committee business. And I think Councillor Rice recognized that Councillor Clayton is away. I think you're next on the list for the Community Growth Committee meeting from April 18th. Would you mind moving that set of minutes for us? And again, your microphone's gone off just in terms of the queue.
Part here. What's that? Okay. All right. I move that council receive the minutes of the Community Growth Committee meeting held April 18th.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Any errors or omissions we need to correct? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thanks very much. And thanks, Councillor Rice, for stepping in. I don't know if you have the minutes at hand, if there's anything you wanted to highlight from that meeting.
I don't think so. I think everything
Is covered?
covered, yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rice. That'll take us to 9.2, the Community Living Committee meeting from April 18th, and Councillor Tarrant. That was your set of minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll move the minutes of the Community Living Committee meeting held on April 18th.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Any errors or omissions that we need to correct? Again, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you. Just one motion rising out of committee. I would move that Council award tender T29-433-17 Bear Creek Pool renovations to Monteith Building Group Limited in the amount of $4,492,500 exclusive of GST.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Anything?
Maybe just to add, I think council is very familiar with this project. We've talked about it for quite some time, but it would be the renovations to the Bear Creek Pool, which everybody's aware of the plans of creating the zero entry, making some splash features. We were also told that the slide came in under budget, and so that we could put it. It came in under the amount that we had budgeted for the project, and so that they would go ahead with the slide. And so that was some good news. And other than that, timelines are construction would be starting, I understand, right away, and it should be open to enjoy next summer.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor McLean.
Just on one opening out of protocol, Mayor Gibbon. Has anything about naming been brought up about the pool, the new pool being developed, and just bring that forward? We know a little boy died there last year. So has there anything been brought forward to the committee?
There's been no discussion yet on the naming of or renaming of the pool, nor has there been any discussion on the operational model of how the pool would operate.
Okay,
Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Tarrant, anything else you wanted to highlight from that Community Living Committee meeting?
Just one item was the naming of the Montrose concourse. There was some discussion around whether there should be, the name that was given to us by the elders, whether there should be an English equivalent or an English place name attached to that name, and that was sent back to the elders to discuss, committee felt it was important to consult them before making any changes, and so we'll wait to hear back from the Aboriginal group to see what they have to say, and then we'll have further discussion from there.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor Logan.
Could I ask Mayor Given or Rory whether we've received any feedback in any quantity on the naming of the concourse that's different from the one from the idea that's being suggested now? I know I've certainly heard.
So, Councillor Logan, are you asking if the city through any formal process has received any other feedback? I'm sure as elected officials, many council members have received all kinds of feedback, and I certainly have a variety.
Sort of asking both. If there had been anything that had happened procedurally with council and administration, which I wouldn't think had happened? And has there been any amount of either criticism or support for the change in name?
I would say that personally, I've received about equal amount. No, I've received probably 2 pieces of input in opposition to the name, and I've probably received 10 in support of it.
From my perspective, I've received feedback both ways, but there has been no formal submissions to committee that has been brought to my attention in terms of wanting to oppose or support the name.
Thanks, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor Logan. I think that handles everything from our Community Living Committee meeting, and would take us to Community Safety. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I would move that Council receive the minutes of the Community Safety Committee meeting held Tuesday, April 25th as presented.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Council members, I know that you've all read those minutes with a fine-tooth comb. Or is there any I's that need to be dotted, T's that need to be crossed? Seeing nobody ringing in, it looks like everything's in order. I will call for the vote to adopt that set of minutes. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. We had 3 pieces of business coming out of community safety that day. The first one being an RFP for engineering consultant services on the Sidewalk and Trails program. And to that extent, I will move that Council approve an increase of $69,359.04 for the 2-year engineering consultant services 2015 to 2016 Sidewalk and Trails program for an updated total of $495,293.04, excluding GST. Just a little background on this. We had a change to the original scope of work as administration brought forward. We had increased the amount of work that we had asked from the original RFP that added 1.5 kilometers of sidewalk and 400 meters of trail to the original RFP plan. And through that, and also through inclement weather last year and extra work needing to be done, the engineer said that the site days have increased from 90 to 116 days. And to those who are worried about the budget, this increase is going to be covered by the site day rental and the liquidated damages for not completing the work in time.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Don't see anybody in the queue. I will call for the vote on item 9.3.1. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Thiessen.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Given. The next order of business is a tender for road rehabilitation overlay phase 3. And to that, I will move that Council award tender T-32-552-17 to Canelson Sand and Gravel Limited for $1,965,146.58, exclusive of GST, as the lowest bid, meeting city specifications from a qualified bidder. Sounds like Councillor Clayton is in the house.
Hello.
Hello. You're almost on time.
Thanks, Councillor Clayton. We were just getting organized to have you dial in for item 9. If you can turn down whatever you're watching the council meeting on, that'd be helpful. We're just getting organized so that you're ready in advance of the item that you're calling in for. Councillor Thiessen, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. So this tender is, as I stated earlier, road rehab and overlay phase 3. It is a full depth reclamation project, which means that they need to improve the strength of the original road structure. Therefore, they're going to have to tear it up and put it all back together after crushing the concrete and sending it to the recycle depot where we can't use it. The project here also includes the installation of not the installation, but the repairs to our catch basins and some concrete spot repairs. This will deal with 2 kilometers of 2-lane roads in the areas that are being dealt with here are 117th Avenue and that is 117th Avenue between 105th and 108th behind the Tony Romas in Royal Oaks. And also 108th Street as well. It's sort of a T-shape on the map. And the other areas in Mission Heights to the northeast of the Eastlink Center, 107 8th Street, as well as 72 and 73 Ave. It makes a nice big C on the map as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. I will ask for any discussion or debate on the motion. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Some further good news relative to this is that I believe we had $8 million in the budget for this type of work, road rehab and overlay. And prices have been competitive. And we were told by admin that there will be a phase 4. So we still haven't spent the $8 million with the first 3 phases. So it's good news that we'll be able to do a little more work. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. The last one is another tender. This is for a concrete apron and rehabilitation project, or the Pete Eager Fire Hall. And I would move that Council award tender T-19552-17 to Proform Concrete Services, Inc. for the Pete Eager Fire Hall concrete apron rehab in the amount of $425,320, excluding GST, as the lowest bid, meeting the city's requirements from a qualified bidder. Now, if you're aware, Council's probably aware, we had budgeted roughly just under $700,000 to do the apron repair, the road rehab, as well as the parking lot. After further evaluation, administration within the fire departments realized that they should separate the two projects because they had vast difference of skills and qualities that an organization have to do. So to mitigate certain over expenditures, they decided to split this tender up. To that degree, the price did come in as a little higher than budgeted, but we are going to save the parking lot and access road rehab for a tender later on if adequate funding is available, most likely in the next budget process. But this is just for the concrete apron rehab. They're going to tear it all up, take it out, and then replace it with a brand new apron for the subject price.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Any discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor O'Toole.
Thanks very much, Mayor Given. I just wanted to make note that the fire hall will still be an active fire hall during the reconstruction of the apron, and that was given to us by the fire chief at that time.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Any other discussion or debate?
I might just throw in as well that administration is going to be overseeing the project, so we won't have any extra expenses on engineering services as well. So,
thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. I think that handles that piece of committee business.
Pretty much. Just a quick note on the only other thing on the agenda that day. Councillor Tarrant had requested that we do a review of the business licensing bylaw, and we received a report at that committee meeting. Administration informed the committee that we had already undertaken, or were already undertaking, the review of the business bylaw, and admittedly so, to Councillor Tarrant's concerns that it was out of date and out of line in some areas. So they'll be bringing back a report to a further committee meeting in the future.
So, thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. That'll take us to the Corporate Services Committee and item 9.4, Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move Council receive the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held Tuesday, April 25th, 2017, as presented.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. Next is the unaudited financial statements as of December 31st, 2016. Council did receive for information that the unaudited financial statements ended up with a $2,624,494-ish surplus at year end. That led to two motions that are being brought to you tonight. First of all, I would move that Council approve the transfer of $299,814 of the 2016 operating surplus to the Winter Stabilization Reserve.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Open for discussion and debate. Councillor Rice.
I was somewhat puzzled that these two motions are here in this spot. And perhaps I'm not sure if it's Councillor Radburn or Mr. Anderson, but We're making these motions coming out of the unaudited financial statements, when it would seem to me to make more sense to have these two motions coming out of the audited consolidated financial statements. So I was just unsure as to why they were in this spot.
Mr. Anderson?
Mayor, given the unaudited financial statements relate to the results of the City of Grand Prairie itself, the audited ones include the airport and the library. The reason it does say unaudited, but it is audited in the sense that it reflects the true results of the City of Grand Prairie, exclusive of the airport and the library.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. Thanks for that clarification. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. If I may, I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion. To that degree, I would propose that Council approve the transfer of $99,814 of the 2016 operating surplus to the Winter Stabilization Reserve. Now, speaking to this motion, I will be making a follow-up motion in regards to our large-scale tourism fund. But in discussion with Director Galante, we have a fairly sizable stabilization reserve as it is. This would top it up, as we learned at the committee, right to the top of where it is. And I guess in order to mitigate any kind of tax increase, as we promised at the budget time, I'm making this motion, and then I'll follow that up with another motion if it passes.
Thanks very much. So, Councillor Thiessen, your amendment is essentially that the transfer be for only 99,814. Okay. Okay. Thanks very much. So that motion's in order. Any discussion or debate on the amendment, on Councillor Thiessen's amendment? Any discussion or debate on the amendment? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I won't be voting in favor of this. I believe it's going to be top at the regular level, and if we have a real bad winter, we'll be coming back asking for money. So I think we should top it up, and it should go in there. And we got lucky the last couple of years, but 3 years ago we weren't so lucky. So I won't be voting in favor.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I will be supporting the motion. My thoughts were to have to do it a little bit differently, but I think this works, gets to the same place where we can fund off the large scale tourism policy and not have the increase to the property tax bylaw, but to have it where council set it at budget time at 0.51%, and for that reason I'm happy to support this motion. And just on a side note, there is a sizable number going into the financial stabilization reserve, so that would be about 1.3 million. And should there ever be, a need to dip into that for the winter stabilization, if that gets depleted for some reason, then there is a sizable reserve in the financial stabilization.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Any other discussion or debate on Councillor Thiessen's amendment? I don't see anybody else in the queue. So I will call for the vote on Councillor Thiessen's amendment to amend the amount of the transfer down from 299,000 to 99,000. I will call for the vote. Please vote. That motion does carry. So we will have discussion debate on Councillor Radburn's motion as amended, that Council approve the transfer of $99,814 of the 2016 operating surplus to the Winter Stabilization Reserve. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, and I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Okay, thanks very much. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn, why don't you take care of the sorry, and Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson was just giving me some advice there, and I was making sure that I got the vote carried or covered. Mr. Anderson, what would be your advice with respect to dealing with the $200,000 balance?
Mayor, given my suggestion is that you transfer the $200,000 to the 2017 budget, that thereby would change the property tax bylaw, and you could pass it as amended if you wish.
So essentially, taking that 2016 surplus, transferring it forward into the 2017 operational budget. Okay. So maybe,
I'll make that motion then.
okay, Councillor Radburn, go ahead, if you, mic's on there.
So what I'm hearing is that I would move that council move the $200,000, move $200,000 to the 2017 operating budget.
And I think, Councillor Radburn, if the intent is to have it specific to a program, operational items, or you want to specify the program that it's for.
I could do that to cover the additional expenditure for the large tourism event policy.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. I think that motion would be in order, and based on Mr. Anderson's advice, would meet what we need to do with respect to the mill rate bylaw that comes later on. Open for discussion and debate. Councillor Logan.
Yes, I believe that this item should, rather than being voted on this evening, should be referred to the appropriate committee. That's our normal and accepted practice to do it that way. To suddenly jump into a pot of money that we haven't done any real examination of in this evening, I think is a practice that should not be condoned. And I just think that we should have this go back to the appropriate committee. And if it would be in order, I would move that the motion be tabled.
Okay. So you're going to, are you making a motion to table it, or are you making a motion to refer it back to a standing committee? Two different things. Are you tabling it so it comes back to a city council, future city council meeting? Or you...
I think it would make more sense for it to be tabled to the committee meeting.
Okay. Okay. So Councillor Logan's making a motion to refer to the appropriate standing committee. I believe that may cause some complication with respect to the mill rate bylaw that's here tonight, and may make it. So Councillor Logan, though, has made a motion. Thanks very much, Mr. Anderson. And so Councillor Logan has a motion to refer this concept back to the appropriate standing committee. Open. I'll ask for a discussion and debate on that motion to send this back to the standing committee. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I will not be supporting the motion to send it back to the standing committee for what we already know is that we're going to be setting our mill rate and property tax bylaw here tonight if all things go forward as possible. What essentially we're dealing with here is an operational surplus that was just going to go into top up the winter stabilization fund, and otherwise we'd be increasing taxes by the end of tonight by 0.2%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 200,000 extra that's going into it. Whereas, so that we can have funding for this large-scale tourism fund. This way, the way the motion is being sort of carried forward, is it's just going to deal with that, so we don't have to raise it, so that we can keep our promise back in all the hard work that we did at the 2016 for the 2017 budget. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this, and I think it's a clean-cut finish for everything.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. I will recognize Councillor Logan.
I'd just like to underline that this is the normal process that we have, where we take things to the standing committees, analyze them, bring them back. There have been times in the past, and there's councillors here that have the memory of those times in the past where you didn't follow the policy correctly, and you can get twisted up. We are in control of the timing, whether it's the timing of handling the second motion that the councillor referred to or anything else. Just seems to me that we need to be prudent as well as excited about maybe some small changes in the tax growth. Let's follow the proper process.
Thanks, Councillor Logan. I'll enter to say that I won't be supporting the motion to refer. The reason for that is because we have discussed this concept at budget last fall. At the time, Council decided not to fund it based on the desire of having a policy. At committee meeting, we received such a policy revised it, sending it back to administration once, received it again at the committee. It was discussed and debated at the committee and then referred to council and approved by council. And council did ask for some additional review of the procedure under that policy. So this issue has been in front of council numerous times. And at this point, it's really now the motion is, do we fund it or don't we? It's not about whether or not the policy is there. That's, in my mind, been debated quite fully. Is there any other discussion or debate on the motion to refer this back to standing committee? Seeing nobody in the queue, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. So a motion in favor would refer it, or sorry, a vote in favor would refer it back to standing committee. Okay, thank you. That motion does not carry. So we will vote on Councillor Radburn's motion with respect to the transfer of $200,000 from the 2016 operating surplus to the 2017 operational budget for the major tourism events program. Any discussion or debate? Seeing nobody in the queue, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Councillor Radburn, you still have some motions to go.
Oh, yes, we do. I would move council approve the transfer of $2,324,680 of the remaining 2016 operating surplus to the Financial Stabilization Reserve per policy 338.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on this motion? Councillor McLean.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Just a question to Director Ken Anderson. What was in the last time when we voted on to 0.5 property tax, and then it was added to the next following year percentage that we added, increased it to? What did it go from 3 point something to 5? What was the difference there?
Councillor McLean, just to clarify, you're asking about
2018.
What will be the impact on the 2018 budget of the decision made? Where's the 2018 budget standing at?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Mayor, given the draft 2018 tax increase is between 5 and 6%.
Okay.
Just additionally, Councillor McLean, at Corporate Services Committee, Council asked administration to develop 2 additional scenarios, one showing what a 0% property tax increase would look like in 2018, one with a 3% property tax increase, as well as the status quo. And so the next council will receive the benefit of those scenarios when they see the budget.
Okay, just to finish up, I'm kind of need a little bit more information. What was the initial tax increase for 2018 before the changes made in 2017?
Mr. Anderson?
They were slightly about 1.5% less, because what has happened is when we did the November budget, $1.3 million was taken from the Financial Stabilization Reserve to lower the 2017 tax increase. As well, there was an additional $500,000 taken from the reserve for 17 and 18. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of 18, unless council does something else, the $1.3 million will become an issue, and it will either have to be funded off one time again, or it will have to be built into the base budget somehow.
So,
thanks very much, Mr. Anderson.
My final question is, what's the total in reserves? And the philosophy to say that we got to add it to the next year, what's the amount in the reserves right now that you're going from?
Mr. Anderson?
Currently, at the end of December, the Financial Stabilization Reserve is $7 million. The policy itself says that the minimum should be 10% of the operating budget, which is $170 million. So ideally, the minimum should be $17 million. Currently, we're at 7.
Thanks very much, Mr. Anderson. Any other discussion or debate? Councillor Rice, go ahead and there you go. You're in.
So, what was the rationale behind 10%? 17 million seems like a a very large cushion.
Mayor Gibbon, when the policy was amended a few years ago, we looked at best practices in other municipalities, and 10% seemed to be a favorable number with other municipalities in North America.
So there's no sort of hard and fast rationale. It's just kind of like.
No, there is no hard and fast rule for this. It's for each council to decide, but there are some commonalities out there, and 10% is a fairly common number, because anything below 10% is sometimes considered insignificant. Anything over and beyond 10 is more significant.
So we obviously collect interest on that money. Does it go into general revenues, or does it go back into the stabilization fund?
The money gained on the reserves goes back into the reserves.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Anderson. Any other discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, I would just encourage council to support this. This is our policy. If we haven't designated it for anything else particularly, it does go to the Financial Stabilization Reserve. Later on, if we want to access that reserve more when we get to the tax rate, that comes later. But right now, all we're doing is get it into the pot of money that may be accessed or not.
Councillor Radburn. I don't see anybody else in the queue. One last opportunity. Any discussion or debate on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on Councillor Radburn's motion to approve the transfer of $2,324,680 of the remaining 2016 operating surplus to the Financial Stabilization Reserve. Please vote. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move council approve the audited financial statements of the City of Grand Prairie for the year ended December 31st, 2016. Just in speaking to this, the auditors issued an unqualified opinion of these financial statements. They felt the results were positive, and the report talked about that this is reflective of the health of our organization. There were two. Unqualified means that there's no problems. They have no problem making the opinion that they have given us.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I would move council give first reading to bylaw C946E, being an amendment to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board bylaw. I'm going to provide the context here, Mayor Gibbon, if that's okay, before first reading. An unusual circumstance has come forth. We are now having to look at a particular appeal board hearing matter that has been twice sent back from the Court of Appeals. So we're on the third time looking at a particular matter. If members have been part of the two previous hearings, they become ineligible. This has left us with 2 members who would be eligible. We need 3 for a quorum. Our legal advice has suggested to the city that this bylaw would be the best way to rectify that situation. It allows the SDAB secretary to select an alternate member in the event the board secretary is unable to establish the quorum of 3. So this will probably not need to be used very often, but we do have a hearing on May 24th, and so this will help us provide a 3rd member so we have quorum so the hearing can proceed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn, for that introduction. I will ask council members to hold their request for debate until we get to second reading. So I'll call for the vote on first reading. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would give, I would move that council give second reading to bylaw C946E.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Discussion debate on bylaw C946E. Councillor Rice.
My understanding is that the training program is a required a requirement under provincial legislation, and yet we can just pull somebody with no training or background.
So administration actually shared, I'm not sure of the level of, I know in the assessment review board, there's extensive training. I'm not sure with SDAB if there is such training, but the intent of this alternate member would be a member probably from another municipality, experienced and is on their SDAB.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. And just as to confirm what Councillor Radburn said, it is actually the Assessment Review Board that there's required training under the province. Subdivision Development Appeal Board does not have that same provincial requirement for training. So we do have a bit more flexibility there. Any other discussion or debate on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that Council have third reading of bylaw C946E at this meeting.
Okay.
I would encourage people to please support having third reading, as timeliness is important in this instance.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Yeah, just to speak to that, Councillor Radburn mentioned it in his introduction that the courts have given us until May 24th to rehear this, and so in order to affect that, we need to be able to have this bylaw in place, and I think it would be very difficult to have this come back at our subsequent council meeting. Any other discussion or debate on the merits of having third final reading here tonight? Seeing none, as a reminder, this motion must pass unanimously in order for us to have third and final reading. Please vote. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move Council give third reading to bylaw C946E, being an amendment to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board bylaw.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. That is a motion for third and final reading. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn, you're not done yet, hey?
No. Thank you, Mayor Given. This is dealing with the special tax levied against land in Pinnacle Ridge. The context is this, that annually we must pass this. This is a $25 flat fee to each parcel of land in the Pinnacle Ridge area. This bylaw would give us, would generate $16,700, which matches the budget expenses for this year.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. That is a motion for first reading. I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
I would move that Council give second reading to bylaw C1361. Again, I think I did mention that really it's for the fountain feature in that area of the city.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any other discussion or debate? Would just note at the committee meeting, administration referenced that the Neighborhood Association had been contacted. The neighborhood expressed their position that they were in support, and I believe the residents in the area were all sent letters informing them of this special tax, which was originally, when it came into place the first time, was requested by the neighborhood. And so certainly the neighborhood is aware and is supportive of this, this special tax bylaw.
I believe the residents were informed of the committee meeting and this meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Any other discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on second reading. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that Council have third reading of bylaw C1361 at this meeting.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So we've been through this a couple of times tonight. We all know that this is a motion to have third and final reading here. In order for it to pass, it must be unanimous. Any discussion or debate on the merits of having third and final reading? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move Council give third reading to bylaw C1361, being the Pinnacle Ridge special tax bylaw.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Any discussion or debate on third and final reading? Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion carries. Councillor Clayton, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. That was a moment of suspense. Thank you. As allowed for in our procedure bylaw, council members are allowed to participate in council meetings electronically, provided that they provide notice to the legislative services manager and the mayor in advance. Councillor Clayton did that last Friday, and she identified item 9.45 as the item that she wished to participate in. And so for all intents and purposes, she's here. And she can vote on all the business arising with respect to this motion. Councillor Clayton, when we get to the portions around discussion and debate, I will ask first from the council members in the room if they have anything, on the queue that I can see, and then we'll make sure I'll ask you specifically if you'd like to have any discussion or debate. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Radburn.
Okay, so I just need some guidance from Mr. Anderson and Mr. Mayor. Do we start with council approve a 0.5% municipal tax increase?
0.51.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then as we get into the readings of the bylaw, it would be bylaw C 1360 being the 2017 property tax bylaw as amended, based on the advice of Mr. Anderson earlier.
Thank you. So I would move that council approve a 0.51% municipal tax increase.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Open for discussion and debate. Any council members physically in the room tonight that wish to enter the debate on that? I don't see anybody in the queue. I'll ask Councillor Clayton, did you wish to enter the debate on Councillor Radburn's motion?
Yes, I would. I would like to speak against this motion. Based on some earlier discussions in council tonight, feel that council has had an opportunity to reduce this overall number. I think that given the circumstances of our economic environment, that we need to be a little bit more realistic of what the average ratepayer in our city can afford. We know some of the funds that will be passed, or rather some of the expenses that will be passed from the province, and based on that, it's not reasonable that the people are going to actually pay a 0.51% tax increase. There have been opportunities for us to reduce this, which overall would affect this number. So based on that, I can in good consciousness support this motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. Any other discussion or debate? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I think the question will go to Director Ken Anderson. This 0.51, what does it relate to the lowest level of tax increases in how many years? Have you figured that out or looked at that?
Mr. Anderson?
Mayor Given, I know it's the lowest in the last 10 years, possibly 15 since I've been here.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor Rice.
Okay, so I'm seeing on my agenda a 0.71, and I'm hearing a 0.51.
So, as we discussed with respect to the transfer of $200,000 rather than into the Winter Stabilization Reserve, transferring it forward to 2017 operating, that's the difference.
Okay, and so this is, we are looking, if we pass this, the average property taxes will raise by just right around 0.5%.
That's correct.
Okay, just so 0.5%, it's not. I thought I heard Councillor Clayton refer to 5.1%, at which point I almost fainted, but
no, it is
0.5%.
0.5%, yes.
0.51.
Yeah.
Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mayor Given. It would raise 0.51, but question is directed to Director Ken Anderson. That doesn't include the educational tax.
Mr. Anderson?
Mayor Given, no, it doesn't. The education requisition comprises about 25% of the levy, and it's greater, so the blended rate becomes slightly lower than 1.3. It was 0.71 municipal, 1.3 blended. Lowering it to 0.5 would lower it probably about to 1.15% overall.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Councillor Clayton, I want to make sure that we give you another opportunity. It's difficult because you can't ring in. Is there anything else that you wish to say with respect to this motion before we go to Councillor Radburn to close?
Just into Councillor Rice's comments. So if I said it 5.1, I did mean 0.51. But following up on Councillor McLean's comments, the overall concern of being more than 1% is the biggest issue for me. And approving this 0.51 based on other decisions that were made tonight, we had an opportunity to even reduce this number below 0.51. That's why I won't support the motion.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Radburn to close.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would just urge colleagues to support this this motion. I think that, as we've heard, it is considerably less than we've had for many, many years. And it's a balance. It's not maybe what we all would want, but it's a fair balance of reducing the taxes this year. And although we've put some pressure on next year and the new council, hopefully it will be doable. If we start reducing it more, then I think we're compounding the challenges for next council. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. So we will call for the vote, and I'm trying to. It's been a while. I think something. This is the motion to approve the municipal tax rate increase. This is the first portion to approve a 0.51 municipal tax rate increase.
Then we'll do the other readings.
And then we'll do the other readings. I will call for the vote. I will ask council members to enter their vote, the council members that are in the room. Councillor Clayton, I will ask, before I reveal the results, I'll ask you to verbally state your intention, your vote, and then I'll reveal the votes of the council members in the room. Okay, please vote, council members in the room. Please enter your votes. Okay, thank you. I have all 8 in the room. Councillor Clayton, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Clayton. I will display the results. And so for that motion, we have 7 in favor and 2 opposed. Councillors Logan and Clayton are opposed. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move council give first reading to bylaw C 1360, being the 2017 property tax bylaw as amended.
Okay, thanks very much. So this is a motion for first reading. We'll have no discussion or debate on first reading. Please vote. And Councillor Clayton, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. That motion carries with 8 in favor and 1 opposed. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move council give second reading to bylaw C 1360 as amended. Just a reminder, the amended is to take it to 0.51 from the 0.71 that's you see in your package now.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. That motion for second reading is open for discussion and debate. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm very proud of this motion. I believe anything under 2.5% or 2% I will always vote for. My record proves it. Anything over 3 or 3 and 5, 4, I'll never vote for. So I'm in favor of this 1.1.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. I don't see anybody else in the queue from our council members that are here in the room. Councillor Clayton, did you wish to have anything on discussion debate on second reading?
Nothing further.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. So we'll move to the vote on second reading. Please vote. Thank you. Councillor Clayton, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. That motion carries with 8 in favor and 1 opposed. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I would move that council have third reading of bylaw C-1360 at this meeting. In speaking of the motion, I would encourage my colleagues to support this motion so we can finalize the municipal tax increase in the bylaw tonight, so we can proceed with sending things out to our property owners.
Great. Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. A motion to have third and final reading here tonight must, of course, pass unanimously. Any discussion or debate on the merits of having third and final reading? I don't see anybody in the queue. Councillor Clayton, do you have any discussion or debate on the merits of having third and final reading here tonight?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much. I will call for the vote on having third and final reading. Please vote. Councillor Clayton, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously. And so we'll move to third and final reading. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon, and thank you, Council. I would finally move the Council give third reading to bylaw C-1360, being the 2017 property tax bylaw as amended.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. Open for discussion debate on third and final reading. Don't see any council members in the queue. Councillor Clayton, do you have any discussion or debate on third and final reading?
Just one further comment. I encourage council to consider this vote. Although we have done a great job of keeping taxes at the lowest rate, according to Director Anderson, of lower than the past 10 years, any increase in times like now, considering the implications of provincial expenses that will be passed on to the ratepayers, is too much. Still have high property taxes in comparison to other mid-sized cities, and we have to be voting for what's reasonable for our people to afford in the economic times as now. So I encourage council to vote against this.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I will be voting in favor. I do appreciate both councils and administration's efforts in trying to get this down, and obviously we recognize that these are, different economic times than Grande Prairie's ever seen in recent memory, and so I think this is a reflection of that. I will feel like I need to make a note that any councillor is able to make any other motions if they wish to have the bylaw reduced. There's ways to access certain reserves or to reduce spending elsewhere, and those are certainly proposals that are entertained at this meeting and other committee meetings, and I'd be open to hearing ideas if they do come forward. But right now I think we've come to some pretty good consensus over the last, since we've gone through the budget and getting to this point, and I'm ready to support this increase.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I guess my question will be directed to Director Ken Anderson, if I may. I do believe the first 3 years I was on council, the average was 2.68%, 10, 11, and 12, going into 13. So what would be the average? I heard about 0.5 for 1 year, but I'm looking at the average for the whole 4 years. What's the average for the whole 4 years?
Mr. Anderson, how good's your calculator?
Mayor, given my memory isn't that good either, so I can't give you the information right off the top of my head, but I can get that to you.
So the reason to finish up my question is we may be higher than what my first term was, so I don't know the numbers yet, so I look forward to getting them.
Thanks, Councillor McLean. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Councillor Clayton has had an opportunity, and so I will call for the vote on third and final reading of bylaw C-1360, the 2017 property tax bylaw as amended. Please vote. Councillor Clayton, how do you vote?
Opposed.
Thank you very much. That motion carries 8 in favor, 1 opposed. I think that concludes all of our business for 9.45. Councillor Clayton, thank you for making yourself available to use our electronic voting procedure. It is one specific agenda item, and we've done that. And so thanks very much, Councillor Clayton, for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on. Councillor Radburn, was there anything else to highlight from that set of minutes?
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Just three, Mayor Gibbon, quick three. We did also receive the Grande Prairie Public Library 2016 audited financial statements and the Grande Prairie Airport Commission's 2016 audited financial statements. And one other motion of note would be that committee directed admin to bring back a report on historical trends with respect to assessment review board decisions and a listing of significant recent decisions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Radburn. We'll move on. We had no items of correspondence. We had no delegations that came forward this evening. We had no notices of motion, so that'll take us to council member reports. We'll start with the 150th anniversary, Canada's 150th anniversary committee. And Councillor Rice, you had an update for us.
Yes, the planning and implementation of the 150th anniversary enhancements to what we're calling the Fabulous Five is well underway. The Fabulous Five began with Family Day, and then Municipal Government Day will have an enhancement highlighting the 150th anniversary, as will Cultural Days. Canada Day and Heritage Days. So those are what's called the Fabulous Five. The first one to be implemented was Family Day, and Muskesee Park had a huge number of people, even though it was cold weather, but the Canada Bingo was a huge hit. At the museum was highly successful. It was just packed, and they featured 9 Dene games. So again, both of those facilities were very, very successful on Family Day. So you will see the staff of each of those the departments that are undertaking these have done a tremendous job of making sure the enhancements make us proud to be part of Canada's 150th anniversary.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. We'll go to Grand Prairie Regional Tourism Association. Councillor O'Toole.
I think we got her now. Thank you very much, Mayor Given. We did meet on April 20th out in the Country Roads RV Park. And one of the members is Jason Hawa. He's the chair, and that's his location. And he sponsored a location for us to meet. We are having our annual AGM on May 3rd. And it'll be from 11:30 till 1. And it'll be at the Center 2000. There is a number of seats that are available that people are leaving the tourism board for one reason or another. And if you are in the tourism industry, whether you're a hotel, a restaurant, or other, you can put your name in the hat, and the election will be taking place on May 3rd. And the rest of that is the report is Louise Cote, the executive director, is just run ragged right now this time of year with training new staff members and getting things in operation for the summer months. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. And then we had Peace Library System, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Given. We had a meeting on April 22nd out in Hythe. I'm going to be fairly brief with this because I believe they want to break the news themselves. But we did have a small agenda on the day. One of the topics that was discussed was our Indigenous Populations Grant, as we just received another $100,000 grant from the province of Alberta to help serve Indigenous populations and connect them to libraries across the northwest of Alberta. But to that, there was also a motion on the table for us to spend money on a vehicle to help get to these different reserve sites. It was a couple dissenting voices. Mine was one of them. I think Carolyn Coley-Baba was another one, just in regards to just the funding that the province gave forward. We weren't sure if it was clear that we could spend that money on a vehicle just to get out to those populations. So just to ensure that a measure was made that for our executive director to follow up with the Minister of Municipal Affairs or her staff, and to ensure that if we were to spend that money on a vehicle specifically for that purpose, so to mitigate us using more of the Peace Library System vehicles and wear and tear and whatnot, and the amount of usage, that they would come back to our general board meeting and report to the entire board about that, and then we'll make a decision on that. So right now we're just being cautionary, and we'll move from there. The thing that I really wanted to talk about, but I'm going to just keep my lips sealed. If you're coming into Community Living Committee meeting tomorrow, I know they're excited to tell the City of Grand Prairie this, but for the first time in 30 years, the province of Alberta has funded out library systems all across the province, and our portion of that was just over $1 million to help with renovations inside and outside. Again, the roof wasn't stipulated. I know we've been looking at that for a while, but we're going to have more discussions with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and make sure that we can spend that money that way. It has to be spent by 2020. But a really good news story, because we're just stocking up our reserves to deal with what we knew was impending construction. Now we have nothing to worry about. So for anyone who's going to be in attendance tomorrow at Community Living, the media, yes, by all means, talk to Linda Duplessis. She's going to love to talk about this. It's a really good news story.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. I don't know if we have any other external agency reports. I think we made the rounds. Seeing none, then sorry, Councillor Rice, you had something else? Please.
I just want to thank those members of council who attended at the Grand Prairie Airport Commission AGM. It certainly was appreciated by the commission members, and I think it's certainly an organization that we can be proud of.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. I certainly appreciate the focus on governance that the Commission the focus that the Commission has placed on governance over the last couple of years. Certainly seeing the efforts of their work over the last while. We will start with Council Member Roundtable, and we'll start with Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I'll speak to two or three. There was quite a few events this last couple of weeks. One was the GP and Area Safe Communities Day of Mourning event and proclamation reading. This year it went up last year, 2016, to 144 deaths in Alberta. The year before it was 128. So we actually went the wrong way. Wish it was the other way. I think across Canada it's over 900. So there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still individuals dying at work. Speaking to another event, I did greetings on behalf of the Mayor, Council, and the City for the Freemasons. They have a display at the museum, A History of Hidden in Plain Sight, and they're very quiet about what they do. And if you look at the history of leaders, their leaders are very quiet, but they've had a lot of leaders that were Masons, George Washington, John A. Macdonald, Sir Winston Churchill, and even Mr. Horton himself, Tim Hortons, was a Mason. So they have created a lot of stuff and built in our communities for years, and you see it more and more down east. But it is here as well. They're celebrating next year their 100-year Peace Country Mason next year. So there'll be a lot of celebrations next year, and I look forward to that. Another one I want to speak to is, I don't think I have to speak to why I met this individual. I met with Carrie Kundal. She's running for the leadership of the Alberta Liberal Party. And we met her at Paradise Hotel. There was over 75 people there. And that was on a night the Oilers were playing. So there is interest in this race, more than people realize. She speaks well, so I just had to bring that up. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor McLean. Councillor Logan.
The item that I wanted to mention was just mentioned by Kevin, but I'll underline it, and that was the opening of the display on Freemasonry that happened on April 28th. Was interesting in that Masons were in attendance, showing off their paraphernalia, and for an opening like that, it had a surprisingly good attendance. So congratulations to them, and I hope that people will take the opportunity to get down to the Grand Prairie Museum and look at the display.
Thanks very much, Councillor Logan. Councillor Tarrant.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I had the opportunity to attend the grand opening of the Aquaterra Wastewater Treatment Center. It was great to see this world-class facility in action, and seeing how the federal funds went into this facility and made it, it's certainly a big asset for city residents. I also was able to attend on the 24th the Folk Fest lineup. So the Bear Creek Folk Fest announced all their performers, and it was looks like it's going to be another fantastic festival. I think it's going to be another great economic boost to the city, in that it will be bringing people in from quite a distance, as it's a very impressive lineup. That's it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tarrant. Councillor Radburn.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I just want to, two or three here, I want to recognize we had engineering staff and other staff who were working on the our downtown project, had a presence and booths at the Earth Day activities. So thank you, and Environmental Stewardship Department also had a booth there. So thank you to our staff for contributing to this worthwhile day. Volunteer Service Bureau Leaders of Tomorrow Luncheon. So really always great to go, very well attended, 250 upwards. And it's just great to recognize our leaders of tomorrow, our youth, who the stats given by the Senator just talked really about how our 15 to 20 20-ish old youth are providing community service in more than any other age demographic these days, which is just really heartwarming to see and bodes well for our future. And finally, well, I also wanted to commend the Grand Prairie Safe Communities Day of Mourning proclamation event. Now is an integrated event. We used to have just the city, and then we had just a community one. Now they've been integrated into one event, and I just want to kudos to the groups for getting together and providing one community event. And finally, a shout out to the Holy Cross students. I attended their student project fair last Friday afternoon. Lots of good work and thoughtful topics, and really appreciated the chance to dialogue with those students. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Radburn. Councillor O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I had a little feeling of what it's like to be a mayor this last couple of weeks. I attended a couple of grand openings and presented myself as deputy mayor to proclamation readings and the grand opening. Aquaterra, I was joined by Rory Tarrant and Councillor Radburn, Rice, and McLean. There was 3 levels of government represented there. Chris Workington, the MMP, and MLA Wayne Drysdale was there as well. And it's been a long process to get that renovation or upgrade, you might say, in place over 10 years and a lot of money, and it was a success. It wasn't the most desirable smell that one would want to spend all day there with, but we got it done, and it was a great project. Today I did the proclamation reading for Canadian Mental Health Week, and that was at Willow Place. It was attended by a number of people there. Councillor McLean and Thiessen and myself and Councillor Radburn were there. And one of the things that they're doing this week, one of the items that they've been doing to the building is renovating it. And they've got just a few more rooms to do, and they will be completed. Another project that we looked at is a future project that they're looking at. It's about $13 million, and it would hold about not quite 80 people. And so there's some discussions there. They don't have the money at this point in time, but they're planning ahead. And I do want to mention the fact that this Holy Cross School had their little, I guess you could call it a science show. Technically, it's called a whip display. And as we were wandering through, there was a number of student projects that were on brain injury, mental illness, and stuff like that. And I'm going to say about a third of the students had projects where mental illness was something that they choose to do a project on. And there's varieties of mental illness, but yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And that'd be my report for today.
Thanks very much, Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Rice.
I too attended the Aquaterra ribbon cutting at the wastewater treatment plant. It was quite meaningful as I turned back the clock 38 years. A ribbon cutting for the opening of the wastewater treatment plant was the first ribbon cutting I attended after being elected to council. So yeah. And Councillor Radburn has mentioned the appreciation luncheon. It was fabulous to see. It was a packed house, so it was I think it was really heartwarming. I brought greetings to the Alberta Seniors AGM. It was their 50th anniversary, so that organization has been going a long time. And we've already mentioned the airport meeting and the tour and the 150th anniversary committee. I also attended a Grand Spirit meeting. We're hoping once we get the final approvals, we will have a tour for all of the councils of the new building. The information has been forwarded to our web people. asking the city, each of the municipalities involved, to put information on our website about Lakeview. There are some rumors that it's already full, and that is not accurate at all. So we're going to put that, see if the webmasters will agree to put it on our websites. That's it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rice. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I had a few events this weekend. I'm only going to touch on some that haven't been talked about. I was fortunate enough this past weekend to attend the Alberta Library Conference, and fortunate enough to have all the sessions that I picked actually have merit and meaning that I could take home with my learnings of that, how to be a better communicator, how to involve Indigenous populations and more into the community, among other ones. So the conference was great, the networking was great, and I did that on behalf of Peace Library Systems and the City of Grand Prairie. Also on the 22nd, I attended the YMCA's third annual 80s party. I think I sat at a table with the mayor and his wife, Jackie Clayton, and Slash. I believe it was Slash. Or no, that was Kevin O'Toole under a wig and a really rocking t-shirt. But it was a great time. Good job by the organizers putting that all together. I know they raised money for a good cause for all the young kids that are involved in the YMCA program. It was nice to learn a little bit more about that. Finally, I just would like to make a quick shout out. Typically I don't talk about this stuff, especially at a council table, but I had the opportunity to attend the funeral, the passing of a friend of mine, Trevor Blay. It was quite a moving ceremony. Trevor was a young man that I had worked for years with in the bar. I had worked, I think, with all of his brothers at some point or another, or at least served them beer at some point in my life. But he's a good-hearted soul. He always kept his spirit light, and he was more dedicated to his family than most people that I've ever met. So I just wanted to send out my condolences to the Blay family, as well as to the Menzies family, who were deeply affected by this unfortunate accident. And I'd like to say thank you to Trevor, wherever you're watching down on us. Thank you very much for being an inspiration in my life and telling me to always just be me, because that's the best person I can be all the time. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to the mayor.
Thanks very much, Councillor Thiessen. Thanks for those remarks. I'll just highlight a couple of events that I may have, I think I attended without any other council members. I had an opportunity to visit the seniors at Pioneer Lodge. I can report, Councillor Rice, that I did get an opportunity to dispel any rumors about the new building out in Claremont. That did come up, and there were also a number of questions about Disabled Transportation Society and operation of that service, and so it was good feedback and will be helpful. The following day, I had an opportunity to go with City Manager Nicolay to Stony Plain for the Mid-Sized City Mayors Caucus meeting. The group discussed a number of different issues, a pretty wide range of issues, but of particular interest, the group decided to work together to see if we can bring in some speakers from the municipal level of government in one of the U.S. states where marijuana has been legalized. There was a common concern that the federal government's decision to move forward with legalization will have some obvious impacts on municipalities with respect to land use bylaw considerations and others. But the mayors and CAOs agreed that the mid-sized cities group is one of the classes of municipalities in the province that will probably see the most significant impacts of this change. And so we decided that it would be wise as soon as possible to bring in somebody from a municipal level that can actually speak to direct experience about what has happened in their community. And so AUMA was also at the Mid-Sized City Mayors Caucus. They related that they were considering adding a event on this at the November AUMA convention after the election. We agreed that that would be important and appropriate. But we also recognize that the provincial government is going to need to make some decisions with respect to how Alberta will regulate the sale of cannabis and marijuana products. And so we didn't feel that waiting until November would give us enough time to influence the provincial decision making. So Mayor Nolan Kraus from St. Albert has offered to see if he can identify some municipal officials from the states. The group agreed that we would share costs of bringing them up and hold a special mid-sized city mayors and CEOs caucus towards the end of the summer as soon as possible, so that we could get some of that experience and get it into our municipal organizations, so that we can start to shape the direction that we're going to take locally, but also how we might advocate at the provincial level as well. In addition to that, I would just want to highlight two other things. The city manager and I had an opportunity to participate in a early stage planning session with respect to the replacement for the Grand Prairie Composite High School. The Grand Prairie Public School District has received an announcement of funds for a new replacement school. That leaves the question of what will happen to the significant building that's there in the current Composite High School, and the school board has called together community partners to start a bit of a steering committee to guide that process, and there will be ongoing work with that. And also with city manager, I had an opportunity to attend the Chamber Roundtable. This is an annual event where the Chamber of Commerce brings together representatives of local municipalities, school boards, the farming industry, the oil and gas industry, forestry industry, to share some perspectives about what's going on in the local economy. It was interesting to really hear the, I would say, fairly strong sense of optimism that our local economy has turned the corner. Obviously, the forestry industry and the agriculture industry were both concerned about trade with the United States with respect to the discussion that we're hearing from the U.S. president. That came up in those two industries. Interestingly, the oil and gas industry said that there absolutely is hiring going on. Margins are still very low, and so many people aren't making the same amount of money that they were. But the sector representative highlighted the fact that there are companies in our region who have once again begun recruiting in Eastern Canada because they're having a difficult time filling jobs here. And so as quickly as it changed before, it sounds as though it may be changing again in terms of our local economy, where we're starting to see some some shortages in human resources with respect to industry in the region. And so I just think that that was an important opportunity to share what's going on with the city of Grand Prairie, but also important to hear what's going on in the region. It reminds me that at the city of Grand Prairie, we have to be prepared for every kind of eventuality because things turn on a dime in this community. With that, I think we'll call our meeting adjourned.